Okay, so this is the next part. I guess we could call it part two. And I just, share with you how I met my husband. So I grew up in Michigan and was a teacher there. I went to school and was a teacher and started working at a local school district. And partway through my teaching experience, due to cutbacks and stuff, I was bumped from my position. And so I looked at it as an opportunity to go back and get my master's degree. So I took a sabbatical and from the district and got my master's in recreational administration. But my focus was environmental education. Something I focused on in my bachelor's and went on and did that with my master's. So that next year, I did my master's in a year. I know it was insane, but I did it. That next year, I went back to the school district and started teaching again and kind of was at a crossroads. Like, what am I going to do with this? I have this master's degree. Yeah, it's giving me great pay at the school district, but do I want to pursue something like in a Parks and Rec type of setting, or do I want to continue being a special ed teacher? So at the time, I decided to just kind of look at opportunities to get me the experience I wanted to kind of decide where I wanted it to do or where I wanted to go. So I started looking at different things, and one of the things that I started looking at was opportunities to volunteer, like overseas or something, for a year in that kind of work setting, recreation-based environmental ed. And so I looked at different things. Some of them you had to pay for. Some of them were really short, and I didn't know if that'd give me enough experience or time to really decide. But one that I kept coming back to was Peace Corps. It's a U.S. federal government organization where people go overseas for a couple of years and volunteer, and you get paid a stipend to do work overseas. So I started looking into that really seriously and researching it. And I thought, this is a good fit. I think this is what I'm going to do. So I went through the application process at the time. This was in 2006. It was a lengthy process, but I did what I needed to do, got approved. And my recruiter gave me two options. Option one was in West Africa, but they couldn't pinpoint exactly where, but it would be something related to agroforestry. The second option was in the Caribbean, and it would be working in schools. So I gave it a lot of thought and thought, if I'm leaving my teaching job, I might come back here. I'm leaving a retirement and everything. I need to do something that's going to answer my question, but also be helpful if I do return to a public school type of teaching setting. So I opted for the Caribbean and for the environmental ed job. And I got placed in a beautiful country named Jamaica. So I really wanted to go to Africa, but my heart was set on the job. So I really was very excited here. I was going to do environmental ed. So, some more months went by. I had things I had to finish up my school year, pack my rental that I was in, get things stored, take care of my car, sell things, all that stuff. And finally the day came and I left with my group to Miami to start our training. We were in Miami, at the time, I think we were in Miami for like a few days or a week or something. I can't remember exactly. And then we flew to Kingston. But actually, before I got to Miami, I forgot about this. My family took me to the airport. And the plane I was on, we ended up having to get off the plane and go to another one because our plane wasn't working. And I remember thinking, God, is this a sign? Should I really be doing this? But I was like, well, I've already signed up now and I don't have a job. I'm on sabbatical, so let's just go for it. So anyways, we got to Miami, did some of our pre-service training, and then headed to Kingston, Jamaica. Yeah, and we landed there. And I was immediately like, this is a beautiful country. And I was meeting great, other fellow Peace Corps volunteers, and a lot of the staff that were training us, they were Jamaicans, meeting great people and learning about this awesome country and culture, and more about my job and learning, just everything possible. And I remember thinking, God, I love this. I absolutely love this. I think I might stay longer. But so, you're in training for, I think it was, well, we were at Kingston for maybe a few weeks, and then we went out to host families in it as sectors. So I was part of the environmental sector. So we went to another part of the country and started doing more training about our jobs. And then right before we graduated, we all went out to see what our potential sites were going to be. But before we did that, we had to give presentations. So that was what the team members were going to use to determine which sites to place us. So I did my presentation about environmental education. I had just finished my degree, so it came very naturally. I used some of the information from my master's program that I learned and developed, and I was told later on that they were going to put me somewhere else, but as soon as they saw my presentation, they knew I had to work at this one NGO and I had to be connected to schools. And I was very excited about that because that's what I wanted to do. So we all got our sections or our selections, and we went out for about a week. They used to call it Cow Week. I don't know what they call it now. And we got to meet our supervisors and, possibly find out if we were going to live with a family and figure out housing and just kind of figure out about our job and everything. So I got to my site, and my supervisor took me to this local college, and he was telling us about how they had an intern. He was doing like agroforestry demonstration plot. And I went out there, and that is when I first set eyes on who ended up becoming my husband. And immediately I was like, oh, wow, okay. So, yeah. So that's how we met, So I'm going to stop it here and kind of continue talking about our experiences together before we ended up getting married. So I'll be back.